Cock-a-doodle-doo! Moo! Neigh! Quack! Bluck! 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 Are you feeling like you're visiting a barn yet? Well, that's because I'm making different noises that barn animals make. You might think our next act has some sort of animal talent. Nope. Our next act is a stand-up comedian, and his name is Mike Barnette. Do you get it? Well, that won't be all you get, because stand-up comedians are just full of jokes. Here's Mike Barnette, stand-up comedian.
It is great to be in Chicago here. I am so jealous of you guys. You guys have this fantastic zoo. I love going to the zoo whenever I travel. I always check out the zoo. And I went to your zoo. I loved it. I went back home, and I hadn't been to my local zoo in like 10 years. So I thought, I'm going to check it out, because it was a childhood thing from last time I was there. So I went, and it was like $8 to get in, which I thought was really reasonable. I was like, $8, that's cheap. Until I realized that is like $1 an animal. And they have things at my zoo they don't have at other zoos. We have a cow. One very sad, very lonely cow. And there's like a dog and some cats, and if you're there at the right time and they happen to land inside the fence, you will see some birds. But they do have one thing I love. They have the chimpanzee exhibit, and I love that because they're like people. They have personalities. So I start walking towards the chimpanzee exhibit, and he sees me walking up there, and he smiles at me. So I'm like, cool, I got a moment here. I smile back at him. I'm like, I get all the way up there. He makes eye contact with me, and then he flipped me off. I'm like, no, monkey, come on. I'm free, you're behind bars. Bam, right back at him. He kept the eye contact. He kept the smile on his face, and he flipped me off with both hands. I'm like, oh, monkey, come on. So I hit him with both hands. And I'm like, whoa, what is he doing? He reached back behind himself, and he grabbed some poo, and he threw it in my direction. I was like, phew. And that's how I got kicked out of my zoo. They wouldn't even let me wash my hands first. So I'm at school now also. It's weird going back to school because I took some time off. And when I'm a full-time student, and when you're at school, you tend to end up with the same people in your classes as in the program. And I always tend to get stuck with a young lady who's in my program. We get stuck doing projects together. And it's something weird always happens. We get along great. We hit it off. And she always goes, I was wondering something. How old are you? And at that point, I'm always like, I was wondering something too. What's your mom doing? Let's see. I have a little girl. She's 8 years old. She's half Chinese on my side. And when she was a little tiny baby, she was a little bitty thing. I would take her everywhere I went. I'd take her to the store with me. And people would all stop me. And they'd be like, oh, my God, she's beautiful. Where'd you get her? She's my daughter. But where did you get her? I'm like, man, we can have this conversation, but it's going to get awkward really fast. She's my daughter. They're like, and that was so sweet of you to do that. But where did you get her? I'm done. I'm like, oh, aisle 5, next to the fortune cookies. There's a whole bit of them crawling around each other, mostly girls. And I'll tell you, the thing about that makes me the most angry, it's not that people think I'm rich enough to adopt a child, but they assume you see a white guy with a half-Asian child must be adopted. It's not true with all races. If you go to the mall and you see a white girl with a half-black child, you're going to go, oh, she's, adopted that kid. You're like, oh, she's dating a black guy. No big deal. If you were to see me walking to the mall with a half-black child, you'd be like, oh, he's babysitting his sister's kids. Or he's dating a black guy. Thank you very much. That's my time. Mike Barnette.
Mike, that was hilarious coming over to the intersection of Hollywood and or Broadway. Thank you for being on Steve Gadlin Star Makers.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It was a real pleasure. Now, you have to tell me, how long have you been telling jokes?
Telling jokes or doing comedy?
Well, that's a good distinction. How long have you been doing comedy?
About 3.5 years.
That's great. And you're right. Telling jokes is a whole different thing. This is great storytelling, comedic and hilarious. And what brought you to that art?
I decided to try it on a whim. I had some friends that were doing comedy, and I decided to try an open mic one time, and it went really well. So I kept coming back, and now I do it regularly.
That's awesome. About how often are you performing now?
As much as possible. I try to get at least a stage a week, but as many times as I can get on stage, I try.
That's great. And what city are you based out of, Mike?
Mishawaka, Indiana.
Mishawaka, Indiana. That's a fantastic town. That's near South Bend.
It is right next to South Bend, yes.
I love it. It's a beautiful town. Well, we loved having you on the show. Tell me, is there one main comic who you find is your inspiration?
Growing up, I loved George Carlin. Probably the number one.
That's great. I love George Carlin. He's a very funny guy. We're sad. We miss him. Yeah. Well, Mike, we loved having you on the show. We have a lot more coming, so everybody stick around. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Steve Gadlin, the host of Steve Gadlin Star Makers. Thanks so much for watching our video. For more of tomorrow's stars of Hollywood and/or Broadway, click on my face to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I hope to see you again.